Welcome to Thirsty Thursdays at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name is Jesse Ott, the host of this podcast, which is all about beverage innovation. I talk with innovation pioneers from agriculture to glass. This week, I'm speaking with Seth Benhaim, the founder and chief executive officer of Broken Barrel Whiskey. Seth is an innovator at his core. He's the quarterback of two very successful brands. The first, Infuse Spirits Group, was the world's first single-bottle infusion company. He infuses real fruits and spices in each bottle. Less than 2 years later, at the San Francisco World Spirits Competition, the brand won double gold and best in show. Seth was only 25 and was the youngest CEO to earn that award. In 2015, he won the Entrepreneur of the Year at the Nightclub Bar Show. His real fruit infusions have won several awards, including a 90-point rating in the Wine Enthusiast Magazine. He then turned to the world of whiskey, where he broke more barriers by adding multiple barrel types of all finishing aged bourbon in tandem with aging the liquid in barrels. It took time to find the right partner to see his vision, but neither have ever looked back. It started out being distilled and sourced from Owensboro Distilling Company by 8th-generation Master Distiller Jacob Call, using 100% Kentucky corn sourced from local farmers. The core four items range from $40 to $55, and the LTOs have sold for $120. We tasted 4 different SKUs on the podcast, and Cask Strength, the only SKU priced at $55, was truly an amazing experience from nose to finish. Whiskey Magazine's Icon of Whiskey America 2023 awarded Cask Strength Brand Innovator winner, and World Whiskies Awards 2023 under the World's Best Finished Bourbon category received the Best Kentucky Finished Bourbon. It has also received 94 points from the Tasting Panel magazine. Seth and his team have really broken many barriers in our industry and will continue to push the boundaries to find the next great spirit. Thank you for listening, and be sure to subscribe to be notified of all new episodes. Welcome, everybody. This is Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name is Jesse Ott, and I have Seth Benhaim here, the founder of Infuse Spirits and Broken Barrel Whiskey. Welcome, Seth.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, I'm super stoked. You guys are kicking some butt over there, so I can't wait to get into the story and talk a little bit more about what you guys are doing.
Definitely.
So where are you calling from today?
I am in cloudy, not sunny, Los Angeles.
Cloudy?
Cloudy all week. Cloudy.
That's unusual.
Yeah, it's a bit of the June gloom, I think.
Aw. Well, hopefully it'll get better towards the middle to end of the month.
Yep, that's the hope. Although they said rain and thunder all weekend coming up. And I'm just kind of going, I thought we pay more for the weather here or something like that, right? Isn't that the idea? I want a refund.
Well, I just went to my home state of Iowa, and they're dying for rain. So, I guess it's not such a bad thing. But it seems like, it's spring is past. It wouldn't have as much rain in June, but I guess It's happening. The weather's interesting these days, isn't it?
Yeah, it'll have its effect on whiskey barrels across the country. All this weird weather, and it's just been a real wet year and cold year in California, honestly. And I'm wondering what that's going to do to some of the stuff we have aging here, and all the different climates that have been experienced this past year. It's just been a weird weather lately.
It has.
I think there's going to be some interesting whiskeys coming out of this time period for these barrels, for sure.
Oh, well, that's exciting.
Yeah, so
that's always a nice little benefit.
Yeah, well, hopefully it creates some cool, good flavors and good barrels that have interesting characteristics. It's all part of it. That's why every little thing matters to these whiskeys.
I know, these little microclimates of everything.
Yeah, exactly.
That is really cool. So where are you originally from?
Well, I was born in San Francisco and lived in LA most of my childhood and adult life. And I went to college in Arizona. So I, was there for about 5 years total after college. I stayed for another almost year, and then came back to LA, be with family, and got my whole family here. So it's kind of kept me in Southern California for the most part. So that's the story so far.
Well, that's a pretty awesome place to be.
Oh yeah. No, it's very good. I no complaints. It's well, some complaints, but they're pretty standard. It's expensive and it's just the cost of living so high. And
It is.
I'm the father of two young girls. It's just can I get them more somewhere else? I don't know. There's certain thoughts rumbling around, but by all means, that's a beautiful place and food's great and generally the weather's pretty good. But today, I don't know. But yeah, no, and even what? Dare I say, there's some pretty darn good whiskey out here too, and more showing up. So that's kind of a cool thing. I don't know
That
if
is
I
cool.
could have made that statement 10 years ago, but today, yeah, there's some really cool distilleries, great brewing, amazing wine. So there's obviously plenty of stuff to kind of be proud of and to visit California for drinking culture as it relates to this kind of conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
The bars, oh my God, there's so many great bars and so many cool little like underground, unknown back channel speakeasy type things. Certainly not my favorite, bar culture in the country. There's, a lot going on everywhere, but California's got its pockets, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I would think that LA would have a lot of nice spots. I mean, even Dallas, we have some nice speakeasies here that are a lot of fun. Some of them have been around for a while, and some of them are kind of fairly new.
Yeah, that's the great. I love the charm of some of the older ones, but I also love some of these new bars and spots. Speakeasies are really, really cool, and generally they've got to compete, so they come out with really, really interesting, culinary concepts and different,
and really push that innovation boundary.
Oh yeah, they have to. You gotta stand out now. It's got to be different. So
yeah, that's true, definitely. So, how did you get into the industry? What got you in? Got the where did you get the bug, as we say?
There's two questions there. There's how'd I get in and how'd I get the bug. I think I got the bug in college, somewhere around sophomore year. I had we moved into a fraternity, me and this other guy, and we had about 140 square feet to live in, the two of us.
Oh wow!
And we said, "Oh, well, we've only got room for one, a desk or a bar." So we chose a bar. And so I think I worked that summer as a camp counselor when I was like 19, when I was back in LA for the summer. And because I was going to Arizona for college, and I made some money. And first thing I did is took my fake ID and went out to a liquor store and bought up, $1,000 of just liquor, like every color schnapps and this, that. And I was like, so bartending out of our little 140 square foot room with giant speakers, and we played music and make cocktails, and people started like tipping me. I was making money. I was selling bottles. People were like, I had a fake ID, what is it called? Statute of limitations. Like if you get me now for something.
Yeah, exactly. You didn't get caught in the act. You're good.
I can't say I did or didn't, but I sold some bottles. People would.
That's funny.
People would be like, "Hey, can you get me vodka?" I'm like, "Yeah, I got it." So there was a little businessy element to it between selling cocktails and selling bottles and stuff to friends, and I figured they were going to get the bottles anyway. Why couldn't I be the guy profiting?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you gotta find your way in college. You gotta eat.
If they're going to buy themselves, they're expensive. So, or I should say, the Xbox games were expensive, whatever I was doing in college. But yeah, no, it was great. It was fun times. And I really came out of college with, I graduated with a degree in retail and consumer science. So we spent a lot of time learning about not just, business, but the psychology around it. And we studied statistics and a lot of other, it was kind of like business school light in a way, because it was all just focused around retail, supply chain, that kind of thing. We didn't really get into too many other subjects. It was pretty focused. And so I thought when I got out of college, I was like, oh, I'm not going to use any of this knowledge. And I ended up using a lot of it. Like, supply chain was like the most boring class to me at the time, and now I deal with freight logistics companies and supply chain and 3PL and all. It's like all
Yeah.
like. So,
I'm in it as the same way. I did not like studying it, but then
never say never. It comes back. Building, display cases and stuff for Broken Barrel, like in liquor stores and stuff. Like, it's all visual merchandising. It's all the stuff I spent my, back half of college learning about specifically. And it's just so funny that couldn't have been more accurate to some of the stuff I ended up doing. I think there's an entrepreneurial element that you can't really teach. You kind of like learn about it and get experience, and just kind of comes naturally. But yeah, and then where did I get that's where I got the bug, but then how did I get in? Right around 2012, end of the year, I had been tinkering in my grandmother's pool house with putting vodka in bottles and putting fruit in those bottles and letting the fruit flavor the vodka. And we tried to we had a goal pretty immediately, and I say it was me. I had a goal pretty immediately at that time to create a single bottle infusion, like really the only single bottle infusion. So every bottle is a one-off infusion. It's not done.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's incredible. I saw that on your website, and I was like, there's just no way. How does he do that? It is really cool.
This video and audio. So, I mean, you can see there's actual fruit floating in the bottle. So this is comes like that on the shelf. So from the vodka perspective, it was make sure it's shelf stable, make sure it tastes good and looks good, kind of indefinitely, like it never really deteriorates. Make sure it's shelf stable after it's open. So if you open it doesn't oxidize or get any issues, which really comes down to the ingredients being dried fruit for the most part. And then the vodka itself has to be 40%, 80 proof, can't be any lighter for risk of any kind of degradation. And then, it's really a one-of-a-kind standout. If you're a vodka drinker or a flavored vodka drinker, it is the absolute best vodka I think you can drink that money can buy, in my opinion.
So talk about the different flavors. Why did you pick the flavors you picked?
A variety of things, very popular, very well-known flavors, but a different take on them. So like a lot of peach vodkas will taste like, the candied version of peach, where ours tastes like actual peach fruit, which is kind of seems obvious, but once you try enough peach vodka, which a lot of people don't go trying peach vodka to peach vodka, you should, if you ever get the opportunity, do that and then try ours. It just immediately stands out as like, oh, this is a fruit flavor, and those rest of those really do seem kind of artificial. Yeah. And ours, not only does it taste that way if you were just to try it, but also if you see it, you can visibly see, oh, there's actual fruit in it. Hence, that's why it tastes the way it tastes. Lemon, classic flavor, best-selling flavor of all flavored vodkas. So we did that as well. And then we also have the grapefruit, another amazing, fresh, incredible flavor. All of them are gluten-free. The grapefruit and the lemon are actually sugar-free as well, whereas there's natural sugar in the peaches. Then we have our last two, cinnamon apple, which is a knockout, like absolute one, best flavored vodka of the year we launched. So right out of the gate, we got... Right out of the gate is incredible. That is absolutely incredible. 3 months in business. I was 3 months? Yeah. Jeez.
Yeah, you were the youngest CEO to get...
I think at the time I was. Probably has been someone else to win that award since then. I don't really check anymore, but at the time I was 25 when I won World's Best Flavored Vodka.
That's incredible.
And then the last one is the cinnamon apple, the mango habanero is our bestseller. It's nothing like it. It's sweet, it's spicy, it's tropical, it's flavorful. It just amps up every drink you can put it with, and it's just out of this world.
Yeah, sweet and spicy. You've got me.
Yep.
Yeah, if you can do both those, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. And then in 2017, we got into whiskey. We started getting into whiskey, slowly but surely.
So what prompted that? The bourbon.
Yeah. Well, we wanted to obviously get American whiskey. And we were an American spirits company. We wanted to do American whiskey. So obviously bourbon is the most American whiskey because it can only be made in America, of course. And so we were tinkering or with expanding. Like we also created bitters, infused bitters, and the whiskey actually started as infused whiskey or infused bourbon, all under the big banner of Infuse Spirits, which is the parent company's name. But we quickly realized by 2020 that we had a whole separate whiskey business on our hands, and it was a brand that had really nothing to do with Infuse. It wasn't a single bottle infusion. It broke any rule that Infuse had established as a brand. Broken Barrel broke it, pun intended. But Broken Barrel was breaking the rules of its own brand, so it needed to be its own brand, and that's where it kind of took on its unapologetic and bold personality of a brand, and started pulling out hammers and axes and doing some real interesting stuff. Whereas you look at Infuse and you go, man, this is a really soft, dainty, delicate brand. And here's Broken Barrel, which is kind of like, screw you.
Old.
Cue in the Limp Bizkit, break stuff, that kind of thing. Rock music can kind of emanates from the bottle. And that's what
funny.
It's a fun.
It's fierce.
Fun, fierce brand. Yeah, it's not like a lot of other whiskey brands that have characters or heritage or provenance. You've got brands like Wyoming whiskey. It's from Wyoming. Or you've got, Taylor. It's this guy who is, a famous whiskey personality and a founding father of whiskey type thing, or heritage. Like even our partner company, Green River, is a Renaissance brand or like a revival brand. And so all these brands have so much history, and heritage, and we have none of that, and we don't want it. We don't care. We're not trying to tell you or sell you some, whiskey from days of yore. This is a new way of whiskey, of whiskey consumption, of whiskey branding, of whiskey personality, and that is at the heart of the brand. And so and how do we get into it? To answer your question, I got into business with a gentleman who was in the Scotch whiskey industry, and he had introduced me to whiskey and got me, drinking way more whiskey than I thought I was going to, getting into the vodka business. And I was drinking really, really, really good whiskey, and it was really hard to kind of put all of that away and not come back to it. And
right.
We set out, obviously very focused. He gave us money to start a vodka company. So we started a vodka company. But then, as the years started going by and I'm drinking, 50-year-old scotch and 40-year-old scotch, I'm like, damn, I love vodka, but I'm going back and
this is so much fun.
Drinking like these, 20, 30, 40-year-old scotches. And this is really where I'm at. And then, that kind of led to some bourbon drinking here and there. And by the time, we got around 2017, I probably had a few hundred bottles of booze at the office from trade shows and this and that. So we went out and tried to find bourbon. We found a few people that were selling barrels, and we found the one that we thought was going to work best for what our concept was. And then we got samples of it, and we created what ended up becoming the first oak bill. And so we'll get into that, I guess, a little bit. But the idea for Broken Barrel was we're going to do a triple cask stave finish, and we're going to call the ratio of those oak pieces or barrel pieces to one another. We're going to call that our oak bill, which complements the mash bill. And so that concept, it was pretty unique, especially 2017. There wasn't a lot of this happening.
Okay.
Really, especially in bourbon.
Yeah.
World Malts and stuff in Scotland was doing a hell of a lot of finishing, sherry cask finishing, and very common, been around for decades and decades.
Right.
First of all, bourbon has a rule. You're really not supposed to flavor or adulterate bourbon. It's supposed to pretty much go from the barrel, but there's so many different riffs, I guess, on what is bourbon or made with bourbon. And so we took the idea of finishing and want to do it with multi barrel types, but also with staves. And so then we got to the video portion. I believe I said, let's go to Home Depot and grab a sledgehammer because we're going to smash a barrel for this video as we announced that we're doing whiskey just to make a big impact. And then that really just set it off. And then
that's fun.
I like the process. I like how we got to whiskey. It wasn't like we knew exactly what we were doing at first. It kind of evolved naturally.
Yeah.
I think as a result of that process, we ended up creating what I feel is a pretty perfect and a pretty unique brand on its own. It just doesn't really feel like other brands from any aspect. Packaging, the price point for what it is, it's
what are the price points?
Our vodkas are all around 20 plus or minus, and our whiskeys are around 40 plus or minus, and our cask strength is around 50.
Okay.
That's pretty much it. I mean, we're not selling too many. We have some fancier, higher end editions of whiskey that come out from time to time. Those do go to like 60 to 90. And we did a collaboration that got to 120, but that was a one-time, very small release, 3 barrels, just very, very limited. We've done
that is small. Yeah.
Single barrels that were like SKUs that were single, 1 barrel. So 1 of 200 bottles, never getting made again, very unique. That kind of stuff is constantly coming out, especially out of LA. That's what we do here in LA.
So what was that process like for you to get started and find a master distiller and find a bourbon house that you wanted to work with? And I mean, you kind of explained that you were looking at doing something different in the industry at the time. Did you have to collaborate with them and kind of walk through what that looked like for you and make sure that there's a fit?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of people were not super stoked about smashing up barrels and helping us because so let's go back to 2017. We're a vodka brand that's still, arguably small, and we are not a distillery, still aren't a distillery. So we don't distill our whiskeys or our vodkas. We source them and we contract manufacture them. So we were contract manufacturing everything then and now. So we don't have a master distiller on staff. The best thing you can get from us is calling me a master blender or a master finisher. I don't know what to call it, but I'm not
all of the above.
Yeah. A lot by trade or I don't know. I've never distilled a batch, so I take no credit to the whiskey we're sourcing. Hats off to the people who are distilling it at a variety of different distilleries that we source from.
Okay.
We went out, we tried to find a few things, and then, we tried to find a few contract manufacturers, and some of them even said, like, no, what you're talking about doing is, like, wrong. That's heresy. Don't do that.
You can't do that to bourbon.
You can't do that to bourbon. And I said, well, sorry, but that's what we're looking to do. Like, we're not looking to just get whiskey from you and put our label on it. That doesn't intrigue me at all. And I don't think it intrigues customers. I don't think anybody's gonna like get really hot and bothered about, oh, you're selling that other person's whiskey with your label on it. Unless it's like half the price, you really don't have my attention or interest. And you'll see, like, you see my room here. Like, I've got a big collection of whiskey, and it's pretty, that. Oh, actually, I'm on the wrong camera here. I was going to, you know what? I'm not going to change it now, but there's a lot of bottles in this room.
Okay. It looks like there's quite a few behind you.
Yeah, that's nothing. I mean, it goes all the
Oh,
way.
wow.
Yep. It's 360, so it's about 1,600 bottles roughly in the room.
Jeez. Oh,
And
wow. That's a lot.
it's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah.
How do you decide what you're going to have after work?
So hard.
It's like, how do I figure this out?
It's funny, you start going back to the same things pretty regularly because I end up drinking a lot of the stuff that I can get more of. If I'm not drinking my own stuff, I try to drink stuff that's a little less expensive. That way I can save the more expensive or rare items when people are here.
Yeah.
But I don't waste it on me. I try to give it to other people because I've tried it all. So I like to let other folks like come in and try something they've never had or will never get a chance to have again. It's a little more.
Yeah,
more about
that's nice. Yeah. Well, that's the industry, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's what we do.
So with whiskey, when we found the right partners, it was a company at the time. It was called O.Z. Tyler, which was owned by a parent company called Terrasentia, which is now the Owensboro Distilling Company / and most will know them as Green River Distilling.
Yep.
Yeah, Master Distiller was Jacob Call for all our whiskey we purchased, and we went out there. I went out there in 2017, met everybody. 2018, I went out there for the first time, met everybody, and then by 2019, we started a conversation about them being our full-time producers and not just buying the barrels and sending them to our vodka facility, but actually graining the glass on site. And by 2020, January, we locked it up. And that was when Broken Barrel really came to life, because before that, again, it was just infuse this, infuse that. And we were trying to kind of fit the finishing process into the infusion branding, and it just wasn't working for us. When we sold everything we made, you couldn't keep it in stock. But as we were growing and getting a little more serious about whiskey and investing more energy and time and money into it, we were like, someone along the line looked at us and were like, you have a whiskey brand that is its own brand. Get it out of the vodka thing. And so they were right. They couldn't have been more right. And now Broken Barrel is way bigger than our vodka. It's trending much higher. You know, it's just ramping up like crazy and getting all kinds of accolades and awards and placements and expanded distribution. We opened Michigan this year. We opened Oregon this year. We opened North Carolina late last year. We are we're just expanding distribution pretty rapidly. We're in Canada now. So
that's great.
All Broken Barrel too, not the vodka, mostly Broken Barrel. Actually, well, Michigan, Oregon, vodka and whiskey, but Canada is just whiskey. So it's expanding. I mean, we're getting requests for the whiskey from Europe, requests from Australia, requests from Asia, and we just don't even have the supply to keep up right now with any of that.
I believe it.
Focused on still getting as much whiskey as we can to our existing customers in the U.S. and then, getting more placements, more frequency, availability of the product.
So you said it was Broken Barrel launched in 2020?
Officially, yeah. With the name Broken Barrel in the bottle was 2020.
So what month was that?
January.
That's right. Okay, you said January. So like a month and a half, 2 months before COVID?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, man. That's an amazing story. I mean, to launch right, like, well, I guess it's kind of almost 2.5 months for us, but that's incredible. So how did that go? Like, what was that process like?
COVID was definitely a tough time in that it really put everything to the test, from our retail relationships to our distribution relationships, and our distributors were definitely having a tough time. I know a lot of our distributors were beer salespeople, and so a lot of that inventory was supposed to go to bars, and bars were shut, and so a lot of beer was expiring, going bad. There were a lot of layoffs. It was just a really challenging time in the industry across all the channels. We ourselves had furloughs and got PPP loans, and we were able to make it through COVID without having to let anyone off.
Oh, that's awesome.
As a reason. We had no downsizing here at the company, and that was great. Felt really good. Again, people were like, "Oh, did you make sanitizer?" Like, no, we didn't have a distillery. In fact, our production runs were definitely delayed because our co-packers were making sanitizer.
Yep.
Our vodka, we had a hard time getting neutral grain sourced in to make vodka, which also was being used, and prices were rising to make sanitizer, which is a good thing. I'm glad they were making sanitizer. But, that was kind of there were a lot of bumps that year for sure in plans versus in expectations versus reality
right.
from a business perspective. So, yeah.
So how many months did it take to get your first award on the Broken Barrel?
Well, it depends on, because it really changed. I don't really count or look at most of the stuff that happened prior to the new packaging. So we were in Infuse package, and then we were in still like a hybrid Infuse that said Broken Barrel package between end of 17 to beginning of 21. So those 4 years were kind of like trial and error. And it was just us figuring out where we fit into whiskey. And by January of 2021, I had made a decision. COVID pissed me off, and so I wanted to get vengeance. And I'm like, I'm not going to let COVID kill this brand or this business. So I decided, instead of scaling back, I decided to double down and invest more of our time and resources into designing the perfect whiskey brand. And so we redid the packaging, we improved the recipe, we got better older whiskey. We worked on our oak bill. We got it trademarked. We got it on the label, which just used to be in like marketing materials, but then it went on the label, and we really did everything, like from the cork to the bottom of the bottle. Everything is completely custom. So
that's awesome.
It's an absolute like overhaul of a brand, and we've been seeing the benefits ever since. So the first awards probably showed up in like last year was really when we started. And that time it all came hand in hand. So we launched end of 2021 with the new, as you see it today, Broken Barrel brand. So it's not even 2 years old. Like the actual.
No, it's still a toddler. It's not out of diapers yet.
It is older than this brand. She's only 2.5.
Aw, and I believe I saw that you just had your second daughter.
I have another.
Not too long ago.
Yeah, she's only
little itty bitty one.
10 weeks, a little baby one, tiny.
Aw,
yeah.
So I'm sure sleep is tough these days.
Sleep is tough. Yeah, we brought in. I'm actually, while I founded the company and the business, it made a lot of sense. We actually, because Green River was acquired. That we were able to get their former CEO to join us as our CEO. So he invested in the company that is now the CEO of the company, which is extremely helpful
awesome.
for me. So I get to spend more time with my family, and the timing really, really worked out because he was available. We needed to raise money. He had money that he wanted to deploy. And so it just, all the stars aligned, and we are so fortunate because we got him in to help really run the business and take us to that next level. And so many things happening in the background here that are expansion and growth and scalability for the brand. But I also it's all happening while I'm with family and while I get to be
yay, really, that's important. You got to have the balance, especially when they're little. I mean, you don't want to miss out on all their first stuff. No,
you can't. Got to be there.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess when you think about it, I mean, COVID in a way was a blessing. It gave you the time to kind of set back and relook at the brand, and you added a lot of value to it and really kind of helped propel it to what it is now.
Yeah, I would say so. I can't say definitively that it wouldn't have happened had COVID not happened. I think there was always, I think the timing of when to do certain things moved forward because we don't move that fast. I mean, it sounds like we're moving fast, but we're really, I mean, we had whiskey available to sell for 4 years before we really created Broken Barrel. And when we took those training wheels off, COVID was like, all right, time to get serious or not. So we designed, we got to the drawing board. We found a great company called Tilt Design, and they helped us with the packaging. And I worked with them every day for like 9 months to get this thing perfect and create the perfect bottle. And I worked with Green River and their teams to get the right formula and the right whiskey flavor and taste. And, you know, the result of that is 2023, about a year and a half in, we just won the most innovative whiskey brand in America from World Whiskey Awards. And we also were named
awesome.
Best finished bourbon in Kentucky, which is a big
that's huge.
There's a lot of finished bourbons. Yeah. So everyone that doubted that this concept would be successful or that this concept would be, you know, a good tasting result, because we just kicked the butts of all of the traditional, more heritage or more corporate or well-funded companies that try to produce or market this kind of product and do it and just pour so much into it. And here we come along with, you know, really relatively speaking, modest budgets and modest, you know, size of company. But you don't need money to make great whiskey. You need to think outside the box and create something different. When you give something different to people, I think it really piques their interest, and it makes a difference on the palate and in the glass. And ultimately, what they taste is going to be a different experience. And if that experience is different and good or great, for that matter, it might stand out as, hey, this is the most interesting thing this year. So here we are now, we're like to say the world's best finished whiskey as kind of our slogan, but we are the best finished bourbon from Kentucky.
Well, congratulations. That's huge. I mean, that's huge. You're doing amazing. I mean, your vodka in 3 months, and what is this, a year and a half, you said? That's incredible. Like that, this doesn't happen. So hats off to you and your team. Like, amazing job. Really.
Thank you.
You're certainly an innovator, that's for sure. So what was the first brand that you released? Or the first style?
Of Broken Barrel?
Yeah.
It was a small batch. It's a 95 proof Kentucky straight bourbon that, well, at the time it wasn't straight. I mean, Green River, when we joined Green River, yes, that was the first one. And it's a triple cask stave finish. So it's got 40% ex-bourbon barrel, 40% French oak, new French oak, and 20% sherry cask.
Yum. I love spirits when they use the sherry casks. They just mellow out and have just a smooth kind of flavor to it. Not really sweet, but, you know, they kind of just gives it that extra, you know, hue of, you know, deliciousness, in my opinion. I love it.
Yeah, we use it as sort of a mild sweetening component to some of the more bullish, like char characteristics and oak forward flavors that are going to come from ex-bourbon, and some of the caramel and nuttiness that, and even vanilla that shows up in that French oak that's got a medium toast on it. So definitely, I don't know if you're trying it here on the show now, or
let's do it. Why not? Yeah, let's go for it. So this is made with 70% corn.
21% rye and 9% malted barley. Yeah, it's considered a high rye.
That smells so delicious. It smells. Are you gonna drink with me, or am I drinking alone?
Oh, sorry. Excuse me.
Sometimes I do end up drinking alone, which is fine.
I'm gonna say no to whiskey on a Monday.
Right?
You know,
and it's the afternoon.
Well, you don't have a small batch in front of me, so I'm actually gonna pour the younger brother the California oak. Did you get this one? The purple?
I got the cask strength.
Okay.
And then I got the Heresy.
Yep. Heresy's there.
And Americana.
Oh, you got everything but this one. Then yeah, let's do. I'll do the Americana. I have that one here too. That's probably the next one to try actually. So I'm jumping to number 2 here.
Why don't I pour them both then, and we can talk about both of them.
It would be interesting to compare these two. One is a bourbon, and one, while it's made with bourbon, is not actually a bourbon because it's blended with light whiskey and finished with a totally different set of oak. So,
interesting.
Yeah, the Americana. That's our newest release. Last November, we launched this as our kind of 4th core item, which are the items you have in front of you, the whiskeys. So Americana is 70% corn, 21% rye, 9% malted barley bourbon, mixed with 99% corn, 1% malted barley, which is our Indiana. So this has liquid from Indiana and Kentucky blended.
Oh, that's cool.
Then it's finished with 40% charred oak. New charred oak has never seen anything but fire and air. I've never had any whiskey or any bourbon. So it's new charred oak. Then it has toasted barrel staves, which also flame, air, no liquid ever touched that oak. And then used apple brandy. So 40-40 and then 20% used apple brandy. And then we get those American apple brandy barrels. So.
Yeah, you can definitely tell. I mean, the small batch is definitely more of that, I would call it more of a spicier, heavier style. Whereas, the Americana I'm sure it has a lot to do with the apple brandy staves, where it's just a lot not smoother, but mellow, a lot more mellow. And I don't know if you can kind of see it's a little bit lighter, maybe.
I think the Americana is going to look a little lighter. Now, the Americana is 100 proof, so it is a hair stronger, but light whiskey is, in fact, generally pretty light in color because it is aged off the still, out of the gate, in used barrels, so it picks up substantially less color than whiskey that is interacting with a new charred oak barrel, which gives off a tremendous amount more color at a younger, faster age. Even though the light whiskey in the blend is about twice as old as the bourbon.
Interesting. Okay. So I'm going to try the small batch.
Oof. It's like candy.
Yummy.
It's so good.
It is really good. So there's a lot of spice on that with the 20% rye, 21%. It's very smooth, well blended. It's got great legs. It's 95, right? So it's up there.
Yeah, not too sharp. Should be easy drinking. And then
it's got a great nose. It's a lot of vanilla. You get a little bit of that sherry, kind of like a little bit of that sweetness, but it's very spicy to me. All right, so let's try this Americana. Completely different.
Yeah, they're different.
Completely different. Not the spice, more of the silky finesse, I would call it.
Oh, it's got like today I'm getting velvet and like I'm getting like almost like the batter of a red velvet cake or something with the cream cheese frosting going.
Yeah,
it's all mixing together after you bit into it. Like it's got the red velvet mixed with the cream cheese kind of flavor, and then almost weirdly it goes into like a bit of carrot for a second, like carrot cake.
I was gonna say that because that cream cheese is right on with me, but like with maybe a little bit of sweetness with an apple.
There's a cream cheese frosting element for sure. It's got and I say cream cheese frosting because there's almost like a sour cream. There's almost like a tartness to it that is like when you try like a Parmesan against like something a little softer and buttery. I think there's a butteriness to more of the bourbons that this one, when you bring in that American whiskey and it saw that used oak, and then you bring in the apple component and all these untouched oaks that have been either toasted or charred. It's interesting. I kind of thought at the outset for the Americana that it would have more of a real rich kind of woodiness and it wouldn't be so soft, but it really is a much softer whiskey, even at 100 proof.
Yeah, agreed. No, it's definitely silky and has finesse.
I believe Drink Hacker said sessionable. It was a sessionable whiskey.
I could see that.
100 proof, it's kind of dangerous to have a sessionable 100 proof.
Yeah. Do you ever, normally drink these straight, or do you mix them at all?
Oh, always. For me, straight. I just drink them neat.
Straight. Yeah.
I'm a neat whiskey drinker. Anything over 110, I have no issue adding a cube. I like to drink, I run hot. Like as a guy, I just run hot. So like, right. I'm not a person that's generally that layered up. Like I'll go outside in a cold day with a t-shirt on, no problem. So I like to cool down all the time. So I'm always drinking with ice for the stronger whiskeys that are over 110. I also have terrible heartburn, so it softens it for me. I think I've destroyed my esophagus over the last 10 years in the...
I know.
But no, I mean, I think all of them are very good for cocktail and are priced to go into a cocktail. Like you could absolutely...
Correct.
None of these are like $200 or $300 bottles that you're like saving every drop, can't spill a drop. Like I don't, there's a lot of people doing those kind of whiskeys and I don't want to play that game. I like to have whiskey that you can just drink and obviously responsibly and drink often and share and give as a gift. And it's kind of whiskey that you put a bottle like this, you give this to someone and they're going, wow, that looks special. That is a special whiskey. Like that is what I'm holding in my hand is cool and thoughtful and creative. And it just doesn't, it's not a generic label on a generic bottle. It just is it's the antithesis of that. So I'm very happy and proud to have put that out into the world. I think that was the goal.
Yeah. Yeah, no, these are amazing. When I think about it, because I'm not a bartender extraordinaire at all. When you listen to my podcast, you'll learn when I make cocktails, I'm pretty not like, I'm actually pretty bad at it. But anyway,
terrible at making cocktails. I'll make them. The one thing I make the best is Bloody Marys. My wife loves them, says they're better than any Bloody Mary she can buy or go out. She
nice.
Her drink. I can't even drink them. I hate them. It's like the last.
Yeah, you have acid. You can't do it. Yeah.
Tomato. It's terrible.
I could make it. I know. I could have maybe one, and I like it spicy, and then that's it.
Yeah. I can.
Yeah. Well, these are amazing. But I was then saying all that. I was thinking, if I were gonna mix these with something, I wouldn't be the same ingredients, because this one is so much lighter and delicate and more like you don't want to overpower it or lose that sensitivity of what that is. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if it's just a bubbly water or, I mean, I drink bourbon and water. That's what I drink because I like the flavor of it, but I need it to I don't need to drink it straight. So
like soda water, or like you just add water to bourbon?
I just water and ice. Yep.
Oh, interesting. It's like a flat highball.
Yeah, I guess so.
You put like fruit, like lemon or lime in it?
No, not with bourbon. No, I mean, I'll do a Manhattan or old fashioned. Old fashions are amazing.
Yeah, I got bored of them recently. I think most people are starting to feel that way, like the smoked ones and all that. I think people are starting to get a little fatigued on old fashions, and I think it's time for some new drinks, some new whiskey drinks to come into fashion or to come into vogue. I think it's drinking old fashions right out of college. It's been a while, so now it's time for that next thing, right? It's
Right.
and I say the next whiskey thing, not espresso martinis have skyrocketed back, and
Yeah, that's everywhere I go.
Yep.
Everybody's talking about the espresso martini, and it's number one drink here and there. They're putting in frozen drink machines here, and they want to do espresso martinis.
Frozen sounds pretty good, actually.
I agree.
I'm going to Las Vegas this month. Maybe I'll see if I can find me a frozen espresso martini. I guarantee they've got one there.
I'm sure they have one of everything there, at least.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's true. So, are you going to try the other two now? Is that?
Yeah, let's do it. Yep.
So you got the rye, our Heresy rye, which is 105 proof. It's 95% rye and 5% malted barley. And while that mash bill is a very common mash bill, this is a Kentucky distilled 95.5 with locally sourced grains. So it's not it's not like the same distillate of many other 95.5s. So there's a uniqueness. And that's
These
just the mash
cute.
bill. The oak bill, thank you, yeah. The oak bill is going to be the same as that small batch. So 40% French, 40% ex-bourbon, and 20% sherry cask.
Nice. Oh, this smells delicious.
Yeah, this is a multi 93-point award-winning. We got 93 points Ultimate Spirits, 93 points Wine Enthusiast, 93 points Tasting Panel. We got 91 points Whiskey Advocate, Double Gold San Francisco, the Great Value Award. It is just hands down across the board our most awarded. It's not our highest award, but it's our most awarded, which is, I don't know what's better. The most amount of awards, consistently the highest, or the absolute highest, like voted best, which is the cast strength, which you'll try next.
Yeah, good. Okay. Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. Maybe one is perfect for one and the other one's perfect for the other, and you have them all in the same portfolio, so you're winning.
I think it's a simple equation of quality over quantity. Like, we have the highest quality award that we've got is the cast strength, but the highest quantity of awards is definitely going to that rye, Heresy rye.
Completely different. I'm just comparing it to the small batch and the Americana. Now when I go back to the Americana, it smells almost sweet. I don't know if it's because it's opened up or I've swirled it and I can get a lot of those apple aromas going on. It's really, really interesting. And then the Heresy is more, I mean, it's 95% rye, but it's a lot smoother and it smells like it's a lot lighter than the small batch. I don't know how it's going to taste, but it definitely has sort of that more of a lovely bouquet, I guess, for lack of another word. I mean, because on the nose, the small batch was real spicy, that rye. I mean, it's 95% rye, so it's, supposed to be that strong kind of spicy profile.
I agree 100%. And the idea is that the rye is meant to stand up in a cocktail at 105 because a lot of the comps were either 80, 90, or 100 proof. So just going even a little higher and then still having a sherry cask and then still being, under $50 for a craft rye whiskey distilled in Kentucky, which generally drives a higher price point than something distilled in Indiana. It's just a big difference. So, I'm really curious to know what you think of that cast strength.
I think it's awesome. When I tasted the small batch now kind of has more of like not a caramel, but sort of like a caramel flavor to it. And you can get it a little bit on your nose and on the palate. Whereas this one's more like almonds. It's just, It's smoother, it's lighter, it's not creamier, but it's just you know, has I guess a little bit more finesse because it's not quite as, you know, that spice. I mean, it's still spicy. I mean, it is 95% rye.
Yeah, it's got a lot of familiar notes, but then they evolve or quickly turn into more complex, like the sherry cask shows up and you're going, what is this? And it's just kind of a wild ride that it takes you on.
It's fun because, well, it's 105, so of course you're going to get, you know, the alcohol, but then just like you said, you're kind of getting layers and layers of different flavors after that kind of dissipates, and it's like this little journey of all these different flavors. I mean, at first I kind of got some citrus for some reason, and then it just kind of evolves after that. There's a little bit of a fire of the spice, and then like I was saying, I don't know why I'm getting almond, but I'm getting like an almond, like an almond extract almost.
Yeah, I get like candy corn a bit on the cask strength for sure. I get like these really interesting sweet notes and sugar notes. On the rye, I do get like a mintiness as well. It's very subtle, but it is kind of a nice like complement to the flavor. So it's pretty unique.
Yeah, it's got a great long finish to it. Makes your mouth water, so you want more.
Yeah.
Oh, it's really good. So should we go for the last one?
Yeah.
Look how cute these are. This is perfect.
Yeah, if you like those, wait till you see what we have coming out later. We're going to get these really cool bottles for the second half of the year coming soon.
Okay. So now we're jumping to 115.
Yes. 115.
This is 70% corn, 20% rye. So I guess
Correct.
This is the small batch, but it's cask strength small batch.
They're the same. They're just 20 proof different. Yeah. Same oak bill, same mash bill. We like to offer it at the 2 speeds.
So why do you think this one then gets the highest point?
I think in general, you'll see like Whiskey Advocate and other review companies or agencies or bodies of panelists, they're always going to lean, unless, you know, very rarely do you see a younger whiskey especially earn these high of a scores or these kind of awards or accolades at the lower proofs, like 40 or 45%. It's really, you know, for lack of more scientific answer, like less water, more whiskey. Drinking whiskey, you want to taste
more flavor,
more of those delicious compounds and, you know, components that are whiskey that you want to be tasting and drinking. So that alone is like the short answer, but really you see year after year higher proof whiskeys earning some of the highest accolades in their respective categories. You know, it's just a challenge. It's hard. It's a hard feat to come out with a younger, you know, under 10-year-old whiskey that's, I don't know, 80 proof, that American whiskey that's going to stand up to a cask strength whiskey of the same age or older. You know, that's a tough racket. I think, you know, plenty of really good 80 proof and 86 proof scotches that are, you know, 12, 15, 20, 25 years old, and still, you know, affordable under $200. But yeah, no, with American whiskey, it does take this kind of a minimum. It takes 2 or 3 years to really let the flavor set in of the barrel characteristics. And it takes, you know, with finishing, you can add the missing components or missing depth of a younger whiskey. Yeah. So I think what we do is we take younger whiskey that is, you know, well under 4 years, and we are able to still get it to taste and hold up to whiskeys that are, you know, 1.5, 2, 3 times older American whiskeys, that are maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 times the price, but it can still hang at the table or, be part of the conversation and win the awards it's winning, because it is so rich and so complex with the missing flavors and components that would come from a young whiskey straight out of the barrel, that by keeping it at higher proofs, like 95, 105, we've done a lot of 110s, 115, we've done up to 130, and having an oak bill as a really critical part of everything we do is having that oak bill. That's where you start to get, that's where it starts to get really interesting.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, this is my favorite.
The cast strength?
Yeah, by far.
Good. Yeah. Oh, that's kind of the result we're looking for.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing, actually. The nose and the flavors that you get when you try it, it goes right into the back of your mouth and it just sits there, and it's like a little journey you go on of all the different flavors. It's so much fun. I mean,
nice. That's very good.
Yeah, it definitely, some of the other ones had a little bit of that caramel characteristic to it, where this one definitely has none of that. That probably because of the higher alcohol, but it's delicious. I love it.
I'm very happy to hear that. Very happy to hear that.
Yeah, you get a little bit of notes on the front of your mouth, and then in the back, it just explodes into this full bouquet of different flavors that are really unique, in my opinion. I can't even... I mean, it's 70% corn, right? So it's going to be a little sweeter. It's not going to have that higher rye spiciness to it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's flavor profiles out there in Kentucky from some of the big shops that are, 13, 15% rye. You don't even get to the 20s. So 20 is considered high rye. There's a pretty popular, mash bill out there from a lot of non-distilling producers. That's a 36% rye from Indiana. That's very, very well known and well loved by most people in the whiskey world. And then, I've even seen 51% corn, 49% rye. So those are out there. We did a 51% corn, 49% wheat whiskey, which was really interesting. Our first ever wheated bourbon. So
yeah, I guess is there any resources or anything you want to share with the audience that really helped you kind of on your journey that was impactful for you? I don't know if it's a podcast. We didn't even get a chance to talk about the podcast part, but is there anything that really kind of stands out that you want to share?
Like resources? I have a lot of advisors that I trust and that steered me in the right direction. So if you as an entrepreneur, finding a good advisor is always advisable. Right. But yeah, no, you gotta put yourself out there, take risks. The whiskey industry in particular is really welcoming and accommodating. There's a lot of great people in this industry that
100%
help you and make some introductions, and those introductions are critical. So if you can network well and be active within the industry, I think you get out what you put in. So if you're really gung-ho and putting yourself out there, I've seen people with really, brands that I would say, wow, it's going to do well. And I've seen them do well because they are putting, 200% effort in every day, and they're grinding. And, they're just grinding their way through to investments, to placements, to distribution, expansion. It is possible. So definitely, I don't know if the audience listening is all like, oh, I'm going to start a whiskey brand, but whatever you do, whatever industry you're in, you're listening or watching, just the commitment and staying to the course and that kind of thing is just really important.
I have found that throughout the different podcasts and different people that I've had, this year, that is the one thing that's been a really cool part of my journey with this podcast is people saying just the exact same things that you just did, and how helpful and how friendly our industry is and how we all want to succeed. There's enough room for everybody, and it's kind of a camaraderie. I mean, I know there's some bourbon houses here that spent time in Kentucky learning with the Beams and the Heaven Hills of the world. And so they're all sharing and wanting to help. So I have to thank you for sharing that with us, because that seems to be, whether you're a writer or brand owner or whatever it might be, just an entrepreneur, that seems to be the one consistent thing throughout every podcast. So I'm glad you shared that with us.
Definitely. Absolutely.
Well, this has been fun. Thank you for sending me some samples and tasting them online. I'm recovering. I'm not recovering from COVID, but I don't have the acute palate that I used to, because you have to retrain your brain. So it's a process. So it's frustrating for me not to be able to
Yeah, sorry to hear that. Well,
yeah.
Sounds like you liked what you tasted, so that's good.
Oh, I loved it. I love this cast strength. This is amazing. I love every aspect of it. So congratulations on all your success, and thank you for spending some time with me on the podcast, and I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, and congrats on your podcast and its success, and I hope to cross paths again soon.
I know. We hope we got to meet somewhere.
Yeah, we'll be at the Kentucky Bourbon Festival in September. I'll be there.
Okay. All right.
Great. That's a good. Doing the bourbon thing, can't really think of a better place to go.
100%.
So,
yeah, for sure.
Great.
I should. I gotta work that.
Work that angle.
Work that angle. Get that free pass.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Take care. Alrighty. Bye-bye.
Produced by Fedora J Productions.